On May 16, 2010, the Boston Celtics were facing the Orlando Magic in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, which meant Kendrick Perkins was faced with the tall task of guarding Dwight Howard. On paper, this seemed like quite the mismatch. Dwight Howard was an athletic beast that had overpowered his matchups because they wouldn't have the athleticism to keep up. The Magic also had 4 other shooters to give Howard as much space as possible to work with. But by the end of the night, Perkins had held Howard to 3 of 10 shooting with 7 turnovers. How was Perkins able to defend Dwight effectively, and was this a fluke? Today we explain how Perkins defended Dwight so well, and why these deficiencies in Dwight's game ended up hindering his full potential. Going into the series, the Magic were scorching hot as they had swept the first 2 rounds and beaten the Hawks by an average of 20 points. The main reason the Magic were so dominant was because no one could slow Howard down individually. This meant that Howard could easily use his power to gain space to get close shots at the rim. He only needed one dribble to get to his righty hook shot, which was his patented move. When the Hawks tried forcing him left, Howard could overpower his defender and dunk the ball. As a result, the Hawks were left with no choice but to double Dwight, which meant another shooter was open. Howard was a great passer in these situations, and the Magic were able to defeat the Hawks. To really slow down the Magic, it was imperative that a team could guard Howard one-on-one, as you would be able to stay home on shooters. So Boston, who was aware of this, decided to match up Kendrick Perkins with Dwight Howard one-on-one, since Perkins was strong enough to handle Howard's physicality. As a result, this would force Dwight Howard to use more finesse around the rim to take advantage of Perkins' lack of agility, and he was not able to capitalize. While Howard is not the worst post player, his offensive game had a lot to be desired. If he could not dribble to his right for his patented hook shot, he did not have another counter. In the first quarter, Perkins is playing to Howard's right, but Dwight tries to get to his right hand anyways. As he sees Rondo lurking, he picks up his dribble immediately, and Perkins is able to stand his ground, which makes Howard's shot much tougher. Dwight tries to attempt a longer hook shot, and he misses. Next possession down, Howard gets excellent post position, but Perkins is able to push him out to make his catch farther. Again, Perkins plays to Howard's right hand, so Dwight tries spinning back to his left, but he leaves the shot short. So to make sure Perkins doesn't have the time to push Howard out, the Magic run the pick and roll. Nelson swings it quickly to Barnes, who gets it to Howard down low. With much better post position, Howard goes up immediately with his right hand and scores. The Magic then try the same concept again. They run the pick and roll and swing it to Barnes in the corner before dumping it back down to Howard. Instead of looking to go right, Howard goes to his left hand but picks up his dribble before trying to desperately pump fake and trying a left hand shot. This was the story all game, and Dwight Howard was only 1 for 6 when Kendrick Perkins was guarding him. Perkins is the best pound-for-pound defender in the post, which countered what Dwight Howard did best, which was use his power instead of finesse. Since Perkins was able to guard Howard one-on-one, he had effectively nerfed the Magic's ability to get open threes from Howard's gravity, and Orlando was only able to manage 58 points through 3 quarters. Now you might be asking why Howard picks up his dribble so quickly. Well, the reason may be because he had a lot of ball security problems. This was not really a testament to what Perkins had done to Howard, but it was a limitation that gave Howard less options to counter Perkins or other defenders. Here, Howard is facing up Kendrick Perkins, and as he's about to spin to his right, Rondo comes and strips it. The ball goes straight to Rashard Lewis, who then attempts a wild shot. To Howard's credit, he's able to get the offensive rebound and draw a foul. But overall, Howard's inability to move Perkins eventually threw him off for the rest of the game, even when Perkins was not matched up with him. For example, Howard faces up Rasheed Wallace and he faces the same scenario. As he dribbles to his right, he sees Rondo coming, so he tries spinning back to his left. Wallace smartly backs up, so Howard becomes off balance and gets called for a travel. But the most obvious moment of Howard's struggles may have come earlier in the third. The Magic get the ball back from a bad pass by Pierce, which gives Howard a prime opportunity to score with Pierce under the basket. Howard tries to take his time so he can dunk the ball, but as he tries to gather himself, Pierce strips him and takes the ball. While Howard had trouble hitting shots around the rim and taking care of the ball, he was still able to get by Perkins multiple times for opportunities to score. The problem was that Howard was only a 49% free throw shooter, which meant Perkins could simply hack Howard when he was at the rim. Struggling to consistently hit free throws has always been a constant throughout Howard's career, but it wouldn't nearly be as problematic if Howard could finish through contact. For someone that relies on overpowering others, this was probably the most shocking deficiency in his game. For guys like LeBron or Shaq, you had to grab them by their shoulders to even have a chance at preventing the and one. But with Howard, Perkins and other defenders were able to swipe him across the arm, which would affect his shot enough so that he couldn't finish the layup whether it was with his right or left hand. Now these aren't easy shots to finish by any means, but for someone who is as equally gifted athletically as any player in the NBA, Howard was not using that to his full potential because he didn't have the touch to finish around the rim whether there was contact or not. As a result, anytime Howard used his advantages in speed and power to get past his individual matchup, that defender could bail himself out by hacking Howard. Because of his issues with his touch, ball security, and free throws, Howard ended up finishing 3 for 10 with 13 points and 7 turnovers. Now, it is fair to question whether this was just a bad game from him, but overall, here's the reality with Dwight. Most teams in the NBA don't have the big men that have the size or strength to guard Dwight Howard one-on-one. As a result, the best way to slow down Dwight was to either double him or hack him as much as possible. That can only work to a certain extent, as either teams would be betting on giving up open threes or being in consistent foul trouble, which wasn't a recipe for success. However, there were always a few teams that had physical big men, which gave them a better chance to contain Howard. In 2009, the Lakers had Bynum and Gasol, who were able to take turns guarding Howard and subsequently won the finals in 5 games. In 2010, the Celtics used Kendrick Perkins to stifle the Magic's offense, which were Howard's 2 best years at winning a title. Once Howard faced teams with physical big men such as the Lakers with Bynum and Gasol or the Celtics with Perkins, his deficiencies started to show through because he wasn't able to get straight line drives to the basket on a consistent basis. For someone that had trouble finishing around the basket and securing the ball, it was always going to be hard for Howard to use any effective counters to throw off his defender and mix up his moves. The fact that he had a lot of deficiencies in his game and was still a top 10 player for multiple years shows how talented Howard really was. But at the end of the day, talent can only take you so far, especially if you have not completely refined your weaknesses to be a complete player. When you have problems handling the ball in the post and finishing around the basket, it is really hard to be an effective post player. In a time where the post game was very much emphasized, Howard never showed tangible improvements in these aspects of his game, whether he was on the Magic, Lakers, or Rockets. As a result, while he was being treated and paid as the primary scorer, Howard never fit the bill as the first option on a championship team. And that's why Dwight Howard never lived up to his full potential. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you enjoy content like this, check out some of the other videos listed here, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.